Hey, what's going on, guys? In today's video, we're checking out this Zock. Yes, it's finally happening. This is certainly one of the oddest HG kits out there. Just with that design, the Zock's design, it's different. It's certainly not one that I could say that I've ever been like a huge fan of, but it's certainly unique, and so therefore I thought it'd be really fun to check out in today's video. This kit did recently get reprinted, so if you guys were ever feeling like you wanted to pick up a Zock as well, it's certainly a good time to check it out. But let's go ahead and get into it here for today's video. So this kit originally came out all the way back in 2007, and so as you can see, we have the typical 2007 era style HGUC box art here with a really nice illustration of the Zock here on the front, and you can see in the background. I had to kind of do like a double take. At first I couldn't figure out what I'm supposed to be looking at here. It's actually a EFF tank there that's sort of blown up and mangled sort of beyond recognition there almost, it looks like. And then you can see like a couple of GOG there in the background, but the illustration of the Zock, yeah, it looks really cool. Quite the thick box here too. It's definitely about as thick as they come for HG kits without going to like the larger size boxes, but this one being number 81 in the lineup. And on here on the bottom of the box, you can see what the painted sample build is going to look like there. It's short, stubby, very wide, and very pointy in this very light green, not a very menacing kind of color scheme, I have to say. One of the reasons why I've always felt like it's just such an odd design. It's quite large there, as you can see, with the 144 scale Gundam, so I'm curious to see just how big this is going to be kind of in hand. We'll take a look at a size comparison later on. If you look here on the other side of the box, you can see we are going to have some really nice detail inside the head there for, I guess, the Mono Eye to move around on the track. There in the front, that'll be interesting. We got its big claws, the feet there, and some more nice details and showing kind of how it's plugged onto an action base for when you want to have it in like the kind of like swimming pose like we saw over here. You can plug the action base up underneath basically like the kind of front chest section there. That's what it's showing us in this sample image over here. All the text is of course going to all be in Japanese on this one, with this coming out, like I said, back in 2007. A good number of years before they started putting any English in the manuals or on the box or anywhere like that. So first of all, I gotta say, the green that it's molded in looks nicer than the green on the box art. I have to say, it's in a little bit more kind of slightly darker green, and I actually kind of like that more so than what's on the box. The box is much like lighter, or almost sort of like a light kind of minty green. This is darker, feel like a bit more sort of like realistic sort of color. So that's actually kind of interesting. We'll take a look through those runners in just a moment, but just to check out the instruction manual here in usual HGUC format, we've got a nice sample build, painted sample build, reference image on the front with some information up here on the back side, talking more about the details, all the stuff we saw on the outside of the box there essentially. And then our color guide is going to be down here at the bottom. On the inside, we have another information page here with some more info in Japanese, more details about certain aspects of the kit here, and then a cool little scene there at the bottom showing the Gundam and the Zock, some more information, and then some more of the 1 Year War mobile suits available in the HGUC lineup. This is obviously much earlier on, so it's like the 1.0 HG Gundam, the Gym, which we still do not have any sort of updated HGUC Gym other than like the Origins version, if you want to count that, but certainly would be cool to see a nice new HG Gym at some point. Here's our parts list right there. Looks like we are going to have a couple of leftover parts basically on runner C, which is just doubled. And the construction process looks to be pretty short. It's basically just like one big shell body with a few detail parts, and then a number of parts there for the arms and legs, not a whole lot. And that's pretty much it. So quick construction, it seems like. Now we don't have any stickers included, but you do have these soft plastic pieces here for going over like the track where the Mono Eye is. And you can see we have these little bits kind of printed onto this. And so this is a malleable thin plastic sheet that's going to fit in there, I guess. Very interesting. I'm curious to see how well this is going to work on the kit. And we've got two of those basically for the front and the back. So that's rather different. Then we've got some polycaps here, PC131 for our polycaps there in gray. And then interestingly, for the rest of our runners here, it's just 3 runners, A, B, and C, and then we've got 2 of each of them. So here's runner A, which we've got 2 of here. There is kind of pinkish, pale pink kind of salmon color over here in the corner, some orangish yellow over here, basically for the fingers, the claws, some green, and then a little bit of clear yellow down there at the bottom. So we got 2 of those. Runner B is going to be the rest of our green parts, and 2 of this runner here as well. You see some quite large parts there with some nice details, especially like here on the bottom of the feet, some nice detail there as well. So that should look pretty nice. And then runner C here in gray, once again, 2 of this one for the kind of like joint parts, not a whole lot, but there's a little bit of those on there. And that's it for all the runners. Let's go ahead and get it built up and check it out. All right, and the kit certainly did not disappoint. Here it is all built up, and I can say, yeah, definitely one of the weirdest Gundam kits I think that I've built. And interesting, I mean, I love the fact that it's symmetrical. Other than the mono eye, the front, back, side to side, everything is like symmetrical about it, which is very interesting. Something I guess I just never really thought about before. I figured maybe the back was like slightly different or whatever. It's just not a design that I really think about very often. But front to back, left to right, this is a symmetrical kit other than the mono eye, which moves around on the track anywhere inside the head. So you can move that around, and that's really kind of about it. It's a little bit of a brick kit in that we don't really have a whole lot of articulation. It's pretty limited, and we also don't really have too much in the way of accessories with this either, as you might imagine. So there's not going to be really a whole lot to go over here in the review portion of the video. Let's go ahead and talk about our one accessory. And it's just the action-based connector. That's all. Just the action-based connector that is able to be plugged in up either the front or the back. Again, symmetrical, so either one, you have this little cap that you can pop out like that, and then you can plug your action base adapter into there to have it in a sort of horizontal swimming pose a bit easier. Otherwise, there is a action base adapter point, hard point up underneath the hip section there. That one as well, you just pop out the little cap, and then you can use this connection piece here, or you can just plug the action base just directly up into that. But if you wanted to have this in like a horizontal swimming pose, having the action base plugged into the back, I mean, it's a little bit kind of dangerous. So nice to have this as a hard point here on the front or the back if you wanted to have it displayed like this. And yep, that's it for the accessories. So let's talk a little bit about the gimmicks here of the kit. And basically the main gimmick is just going to be that moving mono eye. And I will say the clear part in there that kind of covers the mono eye, it does look really cool because you have those little markings that are printed on that plastic sheet. It does make it a little bit hard to see the mono eye actually in there, though. It's kind of dark. But this top part is easy enough, I think, in theory anyway, to remove. Yep, you just pop off this cover like as a shell there, and then we can just move the mono eye around here on the track. You can move it down, you can move it up, you can move it over here to the side. There you go. It's a little bit tight in there, and so you can move it all the way around, and now the front is the back. Who would know the difference? Because like I said, it's exactly the same. Or you can move it up to this little bit right there, something like that. Again, if you wanted to have it like in a swimming pose. So it's really cool that mono eye can actually move all the way around the entirety of the track. Popping that back on here to talk a little bit about the articulation. What little articulation we do have here, these front and back flaps right here and here, the sort of beak looking parts, those can move a little bit up and down, and you do have an actual detail part up underneath there, so that's nice. But those move slightly here in the shoulders. The arms can basically rotate at that point there, and at the shoulder joint you can see we have these kind of two sections. The inner section will move a little bit slightly independently as you move the arm up and down. You can kind of move that down. The elbow joint will rotate there, and then we can also get a little bit of a bend. It's about 90 degrees maybe there at the elbow. The fingers are actually interesting, so this whole hand part here will rotate it. I feel like it's not really shown off that much on the box art or the instruction manual, but the fingers actually have a bit more articulation than is really shown, because it's usually just shown like this in this kind of claw pose, but you can actually straighten them out all the way out to here. Now there's not really any reason to do that, I suppose. Maybe if you wanted to go for a pose, something like this, make it look like it's reaching for something, but there's not really too much reason to have the claws completely extended out straight like that, but just know that you can do that if you wanted to, which is kind of cool. But you can certainly open those up to be much wider, or of course then close them up. And I was worried kind of if this was going to have a similar issue like we saw with the master grade Zock, where this part here had a tendency to kind of come out, that inner gray piece that kind of holds the claws in place. If you guys remember from my review of the master grade Zock, or if you've ever built the master grade Zock, then surely you're aware of that being an issue with that kit. So far with this one, it doesn't seem to be an issue. It seems like this is staying together pretty well. At the midsection between the top half of the body and this very scrunched, almost sort of like SD proportioned lower body here, there is a ball joint, so you will have side to side and front and back bend a little bit there between the top and bottom half of the body. And then the legs are going to be very minimal. Yeah, very nice detail up underneath, but you basically have the legs attached via a ball joint, so you have a little bit of movement there, and the feet are also attached via a ball joint, so you have a little bit of movement there, but it's going to be pretty limited. Basically, you're kind of limited to forward and back like that, and then with this whole hip section basically just being two halves put together, and then this kind of cowl section here around the side just being like fixed in place. If that part was like separate, sort of like this part up here for the shoulder, if this part was separate and also moved, you would have a little bit more range of articulation here in the legs. But it does sort of seem like it's just really not meant to have a whole lot of leg movement with these teeny tiny little legs and this very oddly proportioned, huge upper body that the Zock has. One other quick thing that I want to mention is, of course, just the size of the kit, with this coming in at around 16 centimeters in height compared with our 144 scale ARC 782 Gundam here. You can see it's definitely going to be a pretty big guy. And if you wanted to recreate a pose with it actually holding the Gundam in a claw, I think you could absolutely do that. So kind of cool there for that. And then the last thing that I want to say about just the construction overall is that there's seam lines everywhere. So with it being symmetrical, everything's just halves. The top part, the shell part of the head, you have a seam line there. Not on this spike part here sticking up on the shoulder, thankfully, but on the arm, seam line there, seam line there, seam line there, seam line there. And then each joint of our 6 fingers has a seam line on each segment of the finger. So that's 1, 2, 3 per finger times 6 fingers. You can do the math, it's 18 individual parts that you need to remove the seam lines on just for the fingers alone. Then for the torso here, seam there between the front and back half, seam here between the front and back half of the waist section, seam there on the thigh armor, and a seam on the side of the leg. This piece here around like the ankle armor, sort of as it were, is a single piece, and then the bottom of the foot is a single piece. But yeah, seam line removal on this one's going to certainly be a little bit of a challenge, I think. And then your other challenge, of course, is just going to be posing the kit, because it's just not really going to be able to do too much in the way of posing. So I'll show you a couple of different examples here, and that's really going to be kind of about it. But I also feel like if this is a design that you like, and this is a kit that you want to get, you're not exactly getting a kit like this in order to have it doing like cool action kung fu poses or anything like that. I mean, you kind of know what you're getting. It's just a big green potato looking, like spiky potato looking weird thing. And understandably so. I mean, this design is certainly not going to be for everyone, but I know that it does have its fans out there. There are a lot of Zock fans out there, ironically or unironically, I'm not sure, but if for nothing else, you can certainly say that the kit is definitely unique. It was a unique building experience. Like I said, it was just kind of everything being symmetrical. Kind of interesting how it all goes together. And of course, it's quite large. It has a good weight to it. So it's definitely like a satisfying kit in hand, but it's definitely an odd one. But as I've talked about before, one thing for me that I usually find very enjoyable about some of these designs that I just kind of personally don't really like and kind of find to be ugly, I find them some of the more fun kits to work on, because it's kind of more of the challenge is to make it into something that I actually like. And I kind of find that enjoyable when it comes to like wanting to customize these kits. And so that'll be something to work on. But for now, let me know what you guys think about the Zock here. Have you ever built it? What do you think about the design generally? What do you think about the kit? Let me know in the comment section. And as always, if you want to check out the kit for yourself, you can check it out. Like I said, it did recently get reprinted, so we have it currently in stock here at USA Gundam Store at the moment of recording this video. But if you guys want to check the link in the video description, you can check out USA Gundam Store website, where aside from this kit, we got all sorts of great gunpla there on the site, so check that out. And as always, guys, thanks so much for all of your support, leaving a like, making sure that you're subscribed. Really appreciate it. Until next time, see y'all later. Bye, guys.